Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 video. So we're going to take a little look today at the latest update to the PTS sort of ongoing patch. And this is a fairly regular thing for Bethesda to do while PTS runs. They normally do sort of weekly-ish updates to the sort of the patch notes and the ongoing development of the patch. That's kind of the point of the PTS. Normally, I wouldn't dive into these individual weekly changes, but there's a couple of things on this one that are worth noting as they are of particular interest. Not least of all because they've been discussed in the community quite a bit recently. One of the biggest elements, to spoil it ever so slightly, is the Ultracite ammo changes that are being discussed. There is a big change to that in here, and I suspect you want to see it. So it's rather warm, so we might as well dive right on with this. So then, inside the vault, camp building, public test server, and combat changes as well. So yeah, there's big camp changes, that's the main thing. Scroll down here, there we go, that's most of it. So we've got the PTS update here. It's the first addition to the initial set of patch notes, and it's been rolling out a week. Hope you've enjoyed the new workshop UI, relaxed build rules, and combat changes introduced in the new PTS. Gotta be honest with you, I haven't gone anywhere near the combat stuff. I have enjoyed the camp building stuff though, and I'm going to be doing more on that soon. I'll make sure I link my videos so far on the subject if you want to have a look. So with the combat changes, most of this is not terribly exciting. We've got an extension to the grenades not hitting things through walls. So currently they've already changed the nuka grenades so they won't hit things through walls. They're now extending that to the floater freezer grenades and the flamer ones as well, so that they also won't do damage through walls, which makes sense. They fixed an issue so that Enclave plasma gun mods, will now actually drop from Enclave events properly, so that's good. So if you want to lean into that particular build type, you should have a better chance of getting your gear for that. Thrown weapons should scale with player level better. There's an interesting one here that has kind of got a bit of a caveat, although that's very much a PTS issue. And that is that there was an issue preventing non-physical damage being added via weapon mods, for example, on the plasma cutter. So that does, as standard, some physical damage and some whatever secondary damage you choose. I've got cryo on mine, as it happens. But yeah, the fix of this apparently does have a slight issue of reducing damage dealt by pain drain, which is weird. This is where stuff gets really weird and starts to interact. So they've got an ongoing plan to fix the problem caused by the solution, apparently. So there's that. There's a couple of bits and pieces to weapon damage here. Submachine gun and 10mm SMG are having their base damage changed. They were getting a change anyway. The submachine gun will be getting an even bigger buff. And the scale of the 10mm SMG buff will be reduced, because 59 is still a buff, but not as big as it was. Similar things for the floater grenades there. Got a couple of adjustments to rate of fire and range for some of the weapons. These are all buffs on the range. So light machine gun, minigun, 50 cal machine gun, submachine gun, and Gatling gun, all getting a buff to their range, which is always nice, especially as range is going to be more of a factor after this update. So yeah, it should mean it will be less of a negative factor more often. This is an interesting one for assault rifle users of varying types. The assault rifle has been changed previously, and I didn't realize exactly how impactful those changes were, but it sounds like it's been made really quite effective. So the assault rifle provided the highest damage per shot of rifles and had the fastest reload speed prior to this update, so as it currently is on live servers. The change in this one, however, will allow it to compete better with, or fit in better with the other assault rifle type weapons. So basically what this constitutes is a nerf to the reload speed of the regular assault rifle from 2.08 seconds to 3.02 seconds-ish. And that's an approximation, is it? That's approximate. I hate to see what their precise measurements are. But the other side of that is, so the assault rifle will still have the highest per shot damage, but the lowest reload speed, and flipping it around, presumably the handmade rifle sits at the other end because it's got the fastest reload speed on there. And the radium and combat rifle sitting in the middle. Presumably combat rifle and the fixer will share similar speeds, I would think. Anyway, so that's the little bits and pieces there. The Ultracite ammo is the next thing, and this is the really big thing that they were talking about. So what they were doing was changing it so that you didn't have contextual drops for Ultracite ammo anymore. That was the primary part of that change. Meaning you had to get it by crafting, almost always anyway. Obviously, people were not responding well to that, as you'll see in these notes here. The gist of it basically being that people felt that made Ultracite not worth using, because it's crafting Ultracite ammo for some things is not terrible, for other things is absolutely nightmarish, especially if you've got a high unit rate consumption. So if you're looking at like assault rifles or something like that, or heaven forbid a submachine gun that would absolutely eat through ammo, then getting that solely by crafting would require so huge quantities of flux and things that it would be really prohibitive to do. And obviously the contextual ammo offsets that because you can get it much more easily. So if they were going to remove this, which was the original plan, then people were obviously not very happy about this. So basically they're taking this whole set of changes back to the drawing board. But the big caveat is, in the meantime, there is a massive proposed, at least ahead of launch of the patch, nerf to Ultracite receivers and weapons in general. And they want feedback on how they can solve the issue that they're trying to address, which doesn't just mean don't nerf it, unfortunately. So here's what they've got to say on it. We've been listening to your feedback on Ultracite ammo and prime receivers and have taken a close look at where things stand today and where we'd like to see them in the future. As a result, changes from the PTS have made it clear change isn't quite ready for prime time. Ha ha ha. While we're still excited about the idea of Ultracite ammo playing a more meaningful role in combat and exploration, we realise it needs a broader set of supporting changes to feel rewarding. So, the core issue that they wanted to address in the initial changes is that the flat damage increase that Ultracite weapons got results in a dominant choice, discouraging players from using other versions of the weapon. Basically, because it has the highest damage output, logically you go for the one with the highest damage output and disregard all other options, and that's what they want to avoid. So, the changes they want to make are geared towards making Ultracite weapons situational. It's not the words they're using, but that's my interpretation of it anyway. The idea being that you use it when you need that big power boost, not all of the time. That seems to be what they're going for here. This ain't going to do it, which is why they're asking for additional suggestions from the community. So what they're doing for now is they are restoring the contextual ammo drops for Ultracite ammo, so that kind of continues as it is on the live servers right now. However, they are going to nerf the living daylights out of the damage output of prime receivers to bring them into line with the highest damage outputting receivers that are available that aren't Ultracite, the other ones in short. So yes, they are restoring Ultracite ammo to contextual drops and adjusting prime receiver damage to match other receivers and no longer exceed them. Oh, they're retaining their bonus against scorched enemies and scorched beasts and stuff. This brings Ultracite ammo in line with other high damage options without making them obsolete. Counterpoint, it does make them obsolete. While this is definitely a nerf, we feel that for now, with so much of the playing field being shifted, it's the right time to make this change. Yeah, they're still trying to figure out the final little bits of the balance changes they're making. As for not making it obsolete, even with contextual ammo drops, Ultracite ammo is a bit more laborious to get hold of. It's a bit harder to come by. Not as much as it was without the contextual ammo drops, but still, compared to regular ammo, you're going to get less of it. So why would you choose Ultracite if there's no damage benefit and it's a bit more work to obtain? Just, yeah, it does make it obsolete, in my view. Of course, this is a temporary change, so it is what it is. Looking ahead, we're committed to making Ultracite ammo feel like a powerful and rewarding player choice, something that's earned through exploration and overcoming tough challenges. Yeah, why don't you do that for the rest of the bleeding game and make it feel like we're actually overcoming a challenge instead of eliminating all of the challenge in the game? Anyway, we want it to feel valuable and impactful and not just a stat boost. We're open to your ideas on how to elevate this ammo further, so tell us what you think would make it feel more special. Feedback on the current experiment is extremely valuable. We appreciate the time that went into discussing it. So yeah, more feedback. The best way to do that, by the way, is via Discord. Reddit is an option as well, I suppose, but Discord is where they get most of their feedback, and it's sort of channeled into where they need it, really. So yeah, if you're not on Bethesda's Discord already, then you can find the links to it on Bethesda's website easily enough. So there we go. Currently, massive nerf to Ultracite ammo and receivers, basically making them, no matter what this patch notes say, obsolete until they come up with a workable solution. So it is what it is. So moving on, we have a few adjustments to the workshop stuff, so the camp building side of things. Most of this is not terribly exciting. The key point here is the stored and blueprinted categories are now accessible. They weren't for the first week, so full functionality, more or less, should be there. There's still a couple of bits that they haven't activated, but that'll be coming in subsequent updates. But that makes the whole thing a little bit easier to use because you'll be able to see what you've stored and things. I don't know if it was just deleting things that you'd stored, or scrapping them rather, and not storing them previously, or if something else was going on, but yeah, you couldn't tell if you'd stored something when you pressed the button because it wasn't, the tab wasn't available and it wasn't showing up in the budget bar either. So hopefully that'll be sorted. The accept button now correctly displays as E binding on the bar at the bottom. That's a PC unique thing, but then again, so is the public test server anyway. It's Steam only. Refresh budget bars now trigger correctly when changing subcategories. Not quite sure what that's supposed to mean, beyond that presumably the budget bar will accurately reflect the amount of budget you've used. The exact nuance of this is really weird with the wording, but yeah, I assume it just gives you correct information is the gist of it. Automatically return to the last selected items panel. That's the way it works in the current live version of building. So doing that on the new one is definitely better because it was defaulting back to the start position rather than where you left. And you have to go looking for the place you left off again if you needed to when you switch between the various build modes, build and edit mode. So yeah, that's definitely a nice little quality of life adjustment. It's a subtle thing. Believe me, you miss it when it's not there. You do notice. Visual indicator on item thumbnails to show they have variants available. That's useful. And subcategories now displayed in the variants header. Okay, I'd have to actually see that to understand exactly what they mean by that, but okay. Fixes. So this is some interesting stuff. Cannery can be placed. Crash fixes in general. Jump functionality restored after switching back from modify mode. Yeah, that was annoying, not being able to jump whilst building. Mort's edgy tape's been updated. Power requirements being displayed is good. That needed to be there. Budget bar updates immediately after an item is placed, so that should actually reflect your budget more accurately. Again, no longer display variant none for non-buildable objects like wallpaper and lock. Yeah, that makes sense. It's just useless information attached to it. And non-buildable objects display the category name and item index. Okay, I assume that become clearer when you're actually into it. But yeah, we'll just highlight what they do a little better, I think. And to minimize, maximize variance panel options are now properly labeled in the options menu. Okay, so you can see them expanding out a bit more. Okay, it just shows you your controls a little bit more clearly. And interestingly, there's also some more content organization down here. I did say in my previous video that they need to do a massive organization pass again before this goes live, because it's good and it's a lot better than it is on the live servers at the moment, but the organization still needs some work. Stuff needs putting into more sub-menus and things like that, and yeah, moving into more logical places in a couple of examples. But they've started doing that here with some things. You've got scarecrows moving into the holiday decoration subcategory, the spooky one specifically. Doors being reorganized to create more condensed lists. It's a good start, but it's really the camp objects, walls in particular, that need this particular pass being done to them, because there's 200 something options on the PTS at the moment, and it could really be reduced down to just the number of packs, essentially the item sets, which would be way more easy to negotiate your way through and find out what you're looking for. Just need to tidy it up a little bit more. Yeah. To help with your camp building endeavors, the new workshop UI and relaxed build rules unlocks additional workshop items for all PTS players. Yeah, so basically that's so that we've got more stuff to build than we normally get on the PTS, because they really restrict atomic stuff on there normally, and seasons as well. But when they're working on the building system, that's actually not very helpful. Unlocking these items, however, has also meant that certain prototype things like weapons, armor, and 4-star legendary mods were revealed. I didn't realise that. Stuff that's not currently in the game. Thank you for the feedback provided on these items so far. However, as a general reminder, if you see something in the PTS that we don't specifically call out, it's safe to assume it's not planned for the current update. So yeah, it sounds like they've got weapons, armor, and 4-star legendary mods that they're planning to add later on down the line. But because they haven't mentioned it, it's not in this patch coming in September, which is what they're testing here. Interestingly, another example of the things that they haven't mentioned that are in there, but I don't think is quite the same here, is the changes at Point Pleasant, which seem to imply that we'll be crossing the Ohio River in the future. I will link my video on that as well if you haven't seen it. But yeah, my guess is this is a hint that some things that were supposed to be part of the December update, which we know is supposed to be huge, have made their way onto the PTS early and shouldn't be there. Apparently accidentally as a result of unlocking certain things to give you more flexibility with the building system to test it out properly. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting turn of events, but little hints out there apparently towards what's coming later on, probably in December, I'm guessing. But who knows, maybe it's even further ahead. But given the alleged scale of this update due in December, it should be, it's most likely going to be there. But there we go. That's the changes on the PTS this weekend. And yeah, particularly the shift to the Ultracite thing is the big change. Yeah, basically making Ultracite weapons more or less worthless until they come up with a more permanent solution for what to do with it, which might happen by September, so this may be all academic anyway. or it may not, and it may come in a later update, maybe December or beyond, depending on how long it takes to come up with a way of achieving their goals with the Ultracite weapon type. Yeah, not good news for now, really, but although the rest of it has some good news in it, so we'll see what happens. We'll have to keep an eye on this one. Obviously, if there is further updates and interesting points to things like the Ultracite changes or elsewhere, I will make sure to bring you the news. So, I hope you found that useful and informative. If you did, please consider dropping subs and likes. I very much appreciate. Hit that notification bell or check out the social media links in the description if you want to get notified when I upload. And if you want to support the channel directly, we have channel memberships available via the blue join button as well. So the support there really, really helps out. I really appreciate it. Massive thank you to everyone who has done that. And if you get a chance as well, join us for live streams too. We'll be jumping back to that just as soon as I'm not melting into my chair here, which I am currently doing. So, on that joyous note, have a good weekend. Thank you all for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.